I would like to read this. Friends of the Legal Resources Center of South Africa, this is the Courage Award presented to Scott Wallace.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It is a huge honor to be here with my fellow awardees. I'm humbled to be in their company, and I appreciate being honored for courage, but if you want to talk about courage, I always come back to my grandfather's example. In 1942, in the middle of World War II, he gave his most famous speech about the common man. He was refuting the notion of American exceptionalism that was put forward by Henry Luce, the publisher of Time and Life magazine, who said, we've got to rule the world after the war. And my grandfather said, that is nonsense. There can be no privileged peoples, he said. And as I said in the video, we are no more a master race than the Nazis. Then, a couple of years later, as the war was coming to a close, the New York Times asked him to talk about what the common man was up against, and he wrote this article called The Dangers of American Fascism. I'll just give you a little taste of it. 1944, he warned about demagogues who put their own money and power ahead of human beings, who claimed to be super patriots, his words, but would destroy every liberty guaranteed by the Constitution, who exploit fears of minorities and foreigners, and who lie to the people to justify repression and disenfranchisement. Now, to be championing the common man while slamming self-interested corporate elites in 1944, as the war is winding down and the economy of America is gearing up for post-war reconstruction, is probably why the party bosses decided to toss him out in favor of the more malleable Harry Truman. And that's why on April 13th, 1945, America woke up to President Truman instead of President Wallace. Would we have had a Cold War, a nuclear arms race, McCarthy, Korea, Vietnam? It always intrigues me. But the story that sticks with me to this day about courage and my grandfather was when he was running for president in 1948 on a third-party ticket opposed to Truman and Dewey. He felt that the world might come to an end with nuclear Armageddon and other perils, including racial segregation and other threats to the world. He traveled to the Deep South. And he refused to speak to segregated audiences. And at one gathering in Alabama, the sheriff came up to him and saw that the crowd was very agitated and said, Mr. Wallace, I cannot guarantee your safety. You may not live through this night. And he said, that's not important. What's important is that I finish this tour. And Pete Seeger, who was traveling with him at the time, said, that's when I learned what real courage is in this world. So it's that kind of courage that inspired us this past year to create the Henry A. Wallace Award for Courage for Citizen Activism. And we gave it this year to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe for their principled activism in the face of grave personal risk and standing on the principles that they felt transcended their ancestors and the value of the planet. They stood up against the combination of government and corporate power with just extraordinary courage. And on the award that we gave them, we put images of Nelson Mandela and the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square and the Selma protesters facing the water cannons and the police dogs. This kind of courage is so urgently needed today in both our countries. Unfortunately, it is already here, all around us. Ordinary people pushing back, rising up, indivisible. Maybe even a few elites have had enough. Did anybody ever think that we would be saluting John McCain and Bob Corker and Jeff Flake and George W. Bush for standing up? America and South Africa have way too much in common today. Though in the past we've had a lot in common too. In like 1994, we're both looking good. In the 50s and 40s, not so much. But we have a lot of shared struggles and many things that we can learn from each other. As Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst system of government in the world, except for all the others. And the best remedy is always the common man. The courage of ordinary people, Hector Peterson, Rosa Parks, Albie Sachs, the Standing Rock Sioux. I'll tell you, one place that I would like to see a little more courage is from my peers in the foundation community. Harvey Dale is accepted. And Chris Stone. I mean, there are foundations that are showing courage and funding activism and advocacy and people's empowerment, but too many foundations are cautious and afraid of appearing too political, too partisan. If I had a room full of foundation people here, I would be much more strident with them. We need more of that courage among the funders who are saying they're for social change but are not pushing the envelope nearly enough. So here's to the ordinary folk, the citizen activists, the fed up who have turned from burning tires and throwing poo at statues to organizing marches, tweeting petitions, and Facebooking, mobilizing, and demanding better. That's what we at Wallace Global Fund try to honor and to seek to spread and to inspire. If the ordinary people of our two countries cannot do it, who can? So, and thanks especially to the LRC for playing the lead role in safeguarding the people's constitutional rights to demand better. Thank you for this honor.